in 2008, and we'd already been in other bands together and in varying combinations. So James and I are brother and sister, and these guys went to university together as well. So yeah, we'd already kind of like collaborated. And we've got we run our own label called Snakes and Ladders, and that was actually the thing we set up initially with our previous bands. So we had this kind of like group of people who all make music together, kind of based around New Cross in South London, and we just kind of gravitated together because we wanted to do something interesting with pop music essentially, something that was kind of quite coming from a slightly weird angle, but essentially melodic, rhythmic songs.
I think when we started the band, one of the things we were thinking of a lot was kind of strong rhythms and melodies. So often it was kind of start with maybe a drum beat or something like that, or a certain rhythm, and then sort of try and come up with some kind of gang vocals or chorus or something, kind of a hook or like something to sing along with, and then sort of fill in all the middle afterwards, really, bass and guitars, keyboards, or and sort of build it that way. So it kind of varies from song to song, but I think that was certainly when we started. That was the imprint, was always trying to make something that had an interesting rhythm and then a hook.
Yeah, it definitely does vary. I mean, it's like, because we practice in a studio in Deptford, and like we'll just get together and knock stuff around, and then often that will be like the seed of an idea musically. But then there's been songs where like I've like written a melody line to a drum beat, which is quite nice because it's quite liberating to unhook it from any like chord progression. Or Jamie might have like a sort of guitar lick or something like that, which is, so I think we do try and keep it quite natural, but we also really like the studio process of like chopping it up and kind of taking the details and trying to almost use that as another instrument, this sort of production process. So we're quite traditional in respect of being a live band, and we like to just get in a room and make noise.
We use a mixture of, we don't play to kind of a backing track, or obviously quite a lot of bands now will use like Ableton or one of these things, which is great, and I think it's really, you see a lot of bands use it very well. You see some other bands where it's kind of cheating, it's a bit more like karaoke. We play everything live, and we have elements that are on the sampler, like some of the synth sounds, but they're like one of our keyboard. Well, Anna plays keyboard in the set, but Seb will play the samples live, so it's all done sort of...
Yeah, we've got like an MPC thing, which is quite handy. Yeah, it's like, as James says, it allows you to have a bit more of that shimmery sort of detailed stuff, but it's sort of can be played by humans. So
we found it's kind of a challenge to like recreate the album, because obviously on an album you tend to put on, well, I do tend to put on hundreds of guitar parts and things like that, so...
One take, in, out, done.
But so you end up having all this stuff, or the synth players will put other kind of bits on, and you have stuff you want to be able to recreate live, but there's 5 of us, and we make a pretty big sound, but you can't have everything. So I think the live versions differ slightly from the studio versions, but we sort of try and give it its own energy, which suits the playing in front of people.
We're essentially a live band first and foremost, so the stuff that we use, because we don't make huge kind of rock sound, so we don't have like Marshall stacks or like big kind of Les Pauls or anything. I quite like brittle kind of guitar sound, Fender amp stuff, things like that, and then choose a lot of quite icy kind of keyboard sounds as well. There's no particular gear that we prefer, it's kind of what's around.
It's gone, cause the West was war, but now it's all done.
It was long and arduous.
Getting it out is more like kicking it out the door.
Yeah.
Telling it not to come back.
It was, it has been a long process, because we started out and we did a couple of singles in, I guess, sort of 2009, and we did an EP that year as well, which just came out at the end of that year, I think. And then beyond that, we were doing a lot of touring and trying to, and starting to write what would be an album. But we came at it from a few angles, and we we did a huge sort of session that did like 18 songs and recorded the basis for all those songs, and then we got to the point where we were like, it's just not right, you know, and you kind of know when your heart's not with it, and you kind of, so we basically went back to the drawing board pretty much. So then so that was probably a good over a year of like procrastination really, and in between which we were playing quite a lot as well. And I think, and it's that classic thing people say, oh, you know, if you're touring a lot, then you can't focus on music. And I don't think that's not a valid excuse really, but it just means that you're kind of, because we're quite DIY, and we're always like, we're sort of self-managed and all that sort of stuff as well. So it's just like juggling and keeping all the plates spinning really. So I think, yeah, the album really started to take shape probably from about a year ago, like as we sit now. So from last summer I think was really, I mean we released End of Summer as a single at that point, and that was the only track at that point of the album that was actually finished. So the rest of it was just being worked on, and then I took over production duties after that single was released. So we produced and mixed it ourselves as well, basically in my bedroom. So it was just a matter of like doing a bit of work on the album, doing a few more shows to earn some money, buying more gear, or doing a bit more work, mastering it, and all that sort of stuff. So it was about a year of like real hard work.
We were really eager for it to be a solid piece of work. Like all of the 10 songs are on it are from a specific group of sessions, because we already had lots of things recorded, but we didn't want to use those. Lots of stuff would have been released, and we didn't want to kind of, bore people. We've got a lot of stuff we want to put out. We want, it's good to have as much variety as possible. And so the album came together, like I said, a year, and really proud of it, but it has taken a long time.
I think some of the songs that we did before the songs on the previous EP we released maybe was slightly more written in the studio, or certainly we demoed them as a sort of live band context, and then we, because the producers that we were working with, who were brilliant and I think contributed a lot to the sound, but they were definitely more in the studio and sort of develop the song that, in that context, whereas I suppose with these more recent songs, I suppose we've maybe kind of played them a lot.
Yeah, we spent so long playing them
live together, and then sort of worked out. I mean, the song we just played a minute ago on my record player, we've had that song for about 2.5 or 3 years, and there's been different versions of it, and I think eventually we kind of settled on a version that we could, that sounded quite close to how we were playing it live and that kind of thing. And so yeah, I think it's definitely maybe more of a sort of we've developed the songs within the context of how we can do them live, partly, and
they're more of a band sound now, I think, than slightly more. I think initially we were seen as possibly being more sort of electronic band or something, which I think was fair for their first kind of singles. But yeah, as James says, we've now tried to make it a record that sounds really like a rock band, essentially playing pop music. But sometimes. I'm really good at spreadsheets, which is not something I ever thought me being a musician would entail, but I think you have to nowadays. I think anyone who, even if you were signed to a large label or anything like that, I think it's kind of irresponsible not to have a working knowledge of like how everything works in terms of music as a sort of as an industry type thing. I mean, we'll do it because we love doing it, but you can end up getting fleeced, or you can end up just missing out on stuff. So we run Snakes and Ladders, which is our label. We manage our own, we manage the band, and we pretty much most of the stuff we do ourselves. And I think that can be a bit overwhelming, but it also means that we appreciate it when things go right, and we really we noticed the successes more, I think, because we felt the defeats a lot as well.
But it's because every success is ours, and it's
Yeah.
based on things that we've done, and we've pushed in a certain direction, and we've gone down a certain thing. Each decision we make is ours, and we weigh it on our own experiences. Sometimes it's the wrong decision, and that's a learning experience. Sometimes it's the right decision, and that's a success, and we're able to all enjoy it.
Yeah, totally. And I would definitely say to any band, it's worth making sure that you know, like, we sort of keep little, spreadsheets and stuff of like, how much you're earning and all that sort of
If anyone
stuff.
takes anything away from this, spreadsheets.
Spreadsheets, yeah.
You sleep with your eyes open.
Last Morissette was the first major kind of event I saw because of my sister's birthday, and she was bought 2 tickets, so I went with her.
It's not a bad one.
That's all right.
It's alright. It wasn't. I'd heard that album over and over and over again. As I'm sure you did as well, James.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
My first proper gig was this is actually quite good. My first proper gig was Ash, and I was like, yeah, smashed it. But actually,
That's very good.
I probably did see really as a really young kid. I think I went to some kind of like a Capital FM roadshow thing, at which I believe there may have possibly been E17. So I think it might have actually been that, but I wasn't there to see them as such. So I'm sort of blurring the boundaries.
That was
there.
the first album I ever owned. So that stands up today.
I think my first actual kind of gig as a paying punter, rather than like a festival or something, was like Fear Factory at the Astoria.
Yeah.
So which I was never actually that into kind of metal, but a lot of my friends were. So I went to see Fear Factory, and I suppose if nothing else, the Astoria is quite it's obviously sort of sorely missed. Really,
Yeah, Ash was at this story as well.
Yeah.
It was such a good venue.
Yeah, it was good.
It shows the difference between us. We've got a different level of cool sisters.
The stars are going out.
I can name loads that I don't like.
I actually quite like the sound of. I know it's a weird one, and a lot of people hate this, but I actually quite like the sound of aeroplanes going over my head, kind of thing.
That close.
Not that. No, I don't mean close. I mean distantly. Just because it's sort of, I don't know, probably partly because it blocks out my tinnitus. But
I quite like the sound of. Actually, this is the one I have thought about before. Actually, so I'm not just making it up, but I like the sound on trains. They kind of sing sometimes. I think it's the suspension or something, or the squeaking. Not really the squeaking on the tracks, but there's this kind of like sing-song sound, which you can get quite hypnotised by, and it's actually quite melodic. And I quite like that. It's quite nice. Still thinking.
go with like a cat purring or something like that.
No, heavy rain, really
Heavy
really
rain's
heavy
good,
rain,
yeah.
but only when you're indoors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Heavy rain hitting an umbrella is not quite.
It must be loving it right now.
It's a great time of year for that.
That is a good question. We'll have to think about
It's
that.
a really good question, yeah.